Today, we're going to be talking about Operation Kit and Caboodle. So these are the primary questions I've been asking myself all semester as I've been doing my research. How can packaging add to the play experience of a toy? And how does a toy and its packaging interact with each other? And so breaking that down more in my abstract, asking some more particular questions to move it along. Does the box come apart to become a set or break off into pieces? Is there a narrative directly on the box art? Like, is there like a file card, or is there like a map or something? What's unpacking the products like? Thinking about what that is like for the consumer to unpack it and the frustrations they may face, and how can they be more interactive? Who are we designing for, considering the audience, especially with toys, you gotta consider, you gotta be designing for kids, but, especially for older brands, you gotta probably be designed for older adult collectors. And what will it be made of? What material should I use? Considering what I should be using to actually make this product, considering what packaging is like now and what the future looks like for these industries. I want to introduce myself a little bit, kind of share my background with toys. I'm a huge toy collector, as you can see behind me and in the picture. It's a big part of my life. I especially focus on like Transformers and 80s. And it's a huge part of my life. At my local comic shop, I'm kind of the toy guy. I price and sell, and I have a bunch of regular customers that come in, especially little kids that specifically come over to see me transform all the Transformers and kind of share that knowledge. And it's really great seeing all these adult collectors that grew up with these toys, especially, that are now coming in with their kids and introducing a new generation to these. And these are kind of a few that I took it from my personal collection to share as some of my favorites. And so, thinking about this packaging product, you kind of have to choose a subject to test it on. And so I chose G.I. Joe. And right now, G.I. Joe's kind of coming out of a hiatus from mainstream media. They haven't really been seen on shelves. They haven't been on like TV or anything. And considering that they're the crown jewel of Hasbro, in the 60s, they were a huge toy, and they changed how we marketed to kids, coining the phrase the action figure, and, the gender wars of, girls and boys toys. It was a huge product, and they were equally as huge when they rebranded as a real American hero in the 80s. And so with Hasbro trying to become the new Marvel and have their Hasbro universe, with movie plans supposed to be this year for a G.I. Joe movie, as well as plans for Mask and ROM, which are a couple of other properties. I found this was going to be a great opportunity to sort of experiment with, a new movie, new comic series, new figures. What would their packaging look like? And so I chose on the right, this is the particular figure I've been working with and experimenting with throughout the semester. And so talk about the company a little bit. Hasbro, they're a huge international company that are always coming up with new inventive ways to market and to interact with the consumer. And they're always thinking about materials. Hasbro is huge into different recycling programs, and right now they have a specific goal by 2022 to eliminate all the plastic from their packaging. So like poly bags and those, stupid elastic bands and the window sheets. And so on the right, this is actually Amazon's frustration-free packaging. This is their Hasbro citation, where they kind of took a Hasbro packaging. On the top, you can see they unpacked it all. You can see all that stuff. And they wanted to design something where, it's frustration-free. I think we've all been on like Christmas and you're trying to open up your new toys, and you spend 20 minutes just trying to open it with all those like twist ties, and you cut this and open that. And so on the bottom, they try to find a way to make that experience a lot easier. So design for the everyday Joes and collectors, especially with a brand like G.I. Joe. You're gonna go to an audience that has been collecting this for decades, and that's a huge part of their life, and are really serious about collections, but especially to sort of keep the brand alive, you want to design to, maybe their kids and stuff as well. Durable, eco-friendly, painless. Thinking about, all these things already in my research about materials and that experience, I really want to get something that, has a heft to it, that it's gonna last a long time, that you're not just gonna chuck away. I think, especially when I buy my Transformers half the time, I don't really know what to do with the packaging. I like to save it, but kind of just piles up, and consider something that is more part of the toy than just the package. So the effect on the target, this is one of the quotes from my readings. 52% of online consumers say they would shop again from a business if it included premium packaging. And that idea of building that relationship between producer and consumer, building loyalty, developing a brand. And so when people buy this product, I want them to feel like they spent their money well. I don't want them to buy it and be like, it's cheap and be kind of disappointed. I want them to feel good about it. So I'm going to write a couple of examples, for one, something that looks classy, but there's also the technical aspect. I think we've all done like an Altoids can. It may not be the prettiest design, but it's functional. And I think we've all reused an Altoids can for something as to repurpose. And I think that's really important to consider in that design. How did they communicate? A couple of examples. Things like Pound Puppies has some great narrative in their packaging, considering the package looks like the little dog pound that the dog is housed in, or these tube toys where the package itself is part of the toy. It's the primary vessel, and all the accessories are stored inside it. And so some key quotes that I got in my research: design is the real key to connecting with customers on an emotional, aesthetic level. Thinking about like one of these examples, Happy Aids, instead of those egg cartons, you get like these cartons made of hay, and it has that, natural aesthetic. You feel like you're getting something natural, and it feels good. Same thing with this, have that. I thought these were funny anti-theft lunch bags where it makes your sandwich look kind of moldy, and sort of that relationship. It's kind of funny. One of the ways in which packaging can tell a story is by transporting a consumer to a specific time and place, which I thought was really important for G.I. Joe. I found these like little toy animals that came with packaging that kind of looked like foresty. And the same thing with this, harkening back to the old paper planes where, this cardboard cutout kind of pops out and becomes the plane. The packaging is the plane. The company's going above and beyond to draw the consumer in with a narrative from the very first glance. And oftentimes your product only gets one shot to make an impression. I think it's designers especially. We kind of recognize this, at the chance that, they're in the story, you have all these things trying to call for attention. You get that one shot that they happen to look at. You want to bring them in. They don't want to see something that kind of and just leave it. You want them to buy it. And a couple of other examples. Some really nice narrative packaging. I really liked this example where it's you can buy your sandwich and store it in these boxes, and when you're ready to eat on the go, you fold it out, and it kind of looks like you're eating on the platter, and have that sort of homey narrative. So taking this all in and trying to bring it back to G.I. Joe, thinking about visual inspiration, going back to G.I. Joe's roots. G.I. Joe is a wartime story, and so between that realistic G.I. Joe and thinking about like Vietnam and World War II, what their packaging, let's say, would look like ammo crates and stuff like that. What would that look like? And then compared to what G.I. Joe kind of is now, which is like a science fiction interpretation of that, and futuristic. What would if they were transporting a mass device, what would that package look like? And some other case studies of G.I. Joe and other existing stuff, comic books, cartoon cells, packaging, the figures themselves, and really trying to get that feel for G.I. Joe. And so start sketching. At first I start simple. I start with what kind of exists already, like a cardboard box, take the window sheet out, and maybe for the narrative, maybe there's an insert that has like a background in it, or different pieces when you collect other figures that can kind of go together. But ultimately, this wasn't fixing what I wanted for durable. I figured it's gonna be really flimsy, and it wasn't gonna be premium enough. So I start revaluing the materials, and I ended up going with more of an acrylic / wooden box. So in the center, maybe there's an acrylic window where you can still view the figure, and on either end there's these two wooden boxes that kind of mimic ammo boxes to get back to that mimic the wartime aesthetic, and then also still have that window sheet, that the paper sheet that inserts inside to have that background. And so I start doing my final schematics, start getting all my measurements for the laser cutter, because I'm starting to pick up all of my acrylic and my wood and getting ready. And then COVID-19 hits, and I can't do the laser cutter. So I'm like, well, what am I gonna do now? So to my best of my ability, I did some illustrations of what this package would look like, and this is ultimately what I came up with. Is this combat, durable packaging that will kind of open up super simple. Pop the lids, and you got your accessories stored inside. And when you're done, ready to store away, then boop, 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 and it's all together. And that's kind of, a streamline of what that might look like. And then talking about the cardboard insert, what that might look like. From the front, you're gonna have the figure, the character, in a narrative scenario that kind of speaks to the story, and on either side, have the name, have the faction, and then have all the like copyright, business info that you legally need on the back, where it's not disruptive. And then this is kind of what it looks like when it's closed and when it's open, and have that sort of experience of having it really compact. It's going to be really great for shelf space, rather than having like these bulky things, especially for collectors that keep things in the box. I want to display them in the box. Having something a bit smaller and where everything is stored, it's going to be a lot nicer. And then, especially when people start opening it up and playing and role playing, each piece of the package, becomes part of the toy. You can kind of utilize all the pieces without having to throw them out. So as a recap, designed for a large audience, was designed for kids, was designed for adults. And I think this kind of streamlines both. You get the collectors that are gonna want to keep this on the shelf and keep it for a long time. These materials, they'd be really good for that. But you also have kids that are gonna probably lose the pieces, but now they have a really safe place to keep all those pieces in one spot. Especially as a collector myself, when you get a toy and it's got like a bajillion pieces, and after you take it out of the box, you don't really have a place for them. You usually put them in like a little baggie or something, especially for G.I. Joes. And you kind of solve this with the different compartments, keep them nice and safe and with the figure. Toy and package communicate, all the pieces. I wanted to make sure all the pieces meant something. Talking about, all those like plastic sheets that the toys kind of sit in that you're just gonna chuck away. When I was originally thinking about this, I was thinking maybe I have like a cardboard insert on the bottom that has all the legal information instead. I was like, the likeliness of people keeping that is slim to none. I wanted to eliminate as much as possible people throwing away parts of this package. I want them to experience and want to keep every piece of this package. And since the legal information and some of that other stuff is on this cardboard insert that has a background, people are going to be a lot more inclined to keep it because it adds to that experience. You can have a background and kind of play with your figure with that background. Durable, painless, premium. Simplifying how you open the box. They'll have a tight fit, but it's as easy as just popping off the lid and grabbing your figure rather than having 20 steps just to get to your action figure when you open the box. It's simple, it's compact. And when people pick this up at the store and feel it's wood and acrylic, they're gonna be like, "Wow, this is really nice," rather than picking up a flimsy piece of cardboard and be like, it's probably gonna get all bent and it's gonna get kind of wonky, and there's a lot of people gonna recycle it. Whereas this is gonna last a long time beyond its life on the shelf, and people, will feel confident that's gonna last a long time and look really nice. And now you know about narrative packaging, and knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe, and yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you.